Hello Manchester, I'm Dave Karellen, Head of Paid Search at Click Consult. Today, we're going to be talking about the evolution of paid search and what it takes to make your account a success in 2017. I'm going to touch on a number of new areas and techniques and perhaps fresh ways of looking at others and hopefully give you some tips that you're going to be able to take home today to take your accounts to the next level. Now, paid search, it's come a very long way since the concept began. And the speed at which the landscape's changing, that's only increasing too. However, despite all this change, there's always been core skills that remain very much at the heart of paid search. Now, you'll notice this is very similar to the slide you may have saw earlier, which is a common theme for this conference, it would appear. But paid search is unique in its ability to require a mix of left and right brain skills. It also makes recruiting the best staff quite a challenge. But these skills are roughly broken down to two core areas. So on the left side of the brain is data, essentially how we look for the right data, how we interpret and analyze it, and then the subsequent optimization and testing. And then on the right side of the brain, that's creativity. See, at the end of the day, this is still advertising. And while in paid search today, we may be more math men than mad men, a creative spark can have impacts on click-through rate that no amount of data analysis can provide. So today, we're going to be looking at how these two skills have remained absolutely crucial to paid search, despite the ways in which we leverage them having changed quite considerably. So let's dive right in and first look at the data. Now, there's two main areas I'm going to look at in data today. The first is finding the correct data to analyze, and then the second, that's the subsequent testing. So to look first at which data to use, how we identify the correct trends so we can act on it accordingly. Now, one of the actionable trends can be hourly performance changes, and that's actionable due to the day part and bid modifiers you can use in AdWords. But a lot of the times, the trends aren't immediately apparent, and instead you need to look just below the surface to find the actual important trends that you can act on. So to give a bit of an example here, so what you can see here, we've an example account with fairly static hourly performance. So there might be the odd peak and trough there, but there's not much that you can actually do with that data. If the data is static, then how do you actually optimize that? Now, as I said before, sometimes the important trends, they lie just below the surface. So what you can actually do with this data is perhaps segment it out by device. So instead now, we're going to see that the trends become very apparent. So for desktop there, when we segment out, now you can see the desktop very much has, a peak there. That tends to be in the middle of the day when people are at work. So in those kind of hours, we can actually then impact performance. We can push up in those times. Similarly for mobile, it tends to peak around the commuting hours. And finally for tablet, that one tends to peak later on in the evening when people are back at home. So as with all trends though, these are pointless unless you can actually action them. But since tablet and desktop bid modifiers came into AdWords a previous year, you're now able to effectively create device-specific campaigns to actually leverage these trends and make them actionable. So the way to go about doing that is by using, say, a minus 100% bid modifier on a campaign for tablet, and also minus 100% bid modifier for mobile. And that's a way to create a desktop-only campaign, so you can then leverage these trends. So what you can do there then is with this graph of differing performance, much better than our static performance before, these are important trends, we can actually say now that our desktop-only campaign, which we've created, now we can actually leverage hourly performance and make actual use of it and maximize in the middle of the day. Similarly for mobile, in the commuting hours, we can push up then and maximize performance. And finally for tablet, we can make sure that we maximize performance in our tablet-only campaign towards the end of the day. Now, this isn't just, the case for, day part analysis. You can also look at demographics. So demographic bid adjustments have been in AdWords for a little bit now. But again, sometimes you find that customer age, for example, is one of the demographic indicators. It's a case that, it can be quite static performance. So what do we do with this? And again, the answer can be to segment. In these examples, we're just segmenting by device, but still, you can segment by anything to find the real actionable trends there. So what we can see with this when we actually segment out is that mobile is much more kind of profitable for the younger generation, whereas for tablets, that tends to be something that the older generation are more likely to use to actually complete a transaction. So again, what we can do is make sure that we actually segment this data out. We can make it actionable now. We can create our desktop-only campaign to maximize those key areas, the mobile-only campaign to maximize more towards the younger generation, and finally the tablet one to maximize more for the older generation. You see, of course, millennials are going to be more prepared to use phones to complete a transaction than the older generation. It's common sense. You see, many people think data analysis is all about being extremely technically minded. In fact, it's all about common sense. You see, in this age of big data, there's thousands of trends to analyze and examine, but it takes common sense to realize which of those to actually analyze in detail. See, of course, different demographics are going to use different devices, in different ways. It's basic consumer behavior. Data analysis is much more about tapping in to that customer behavior and understanding your audience. Now, more common sense data analysis, it can be found when you look at leveraging audience segments in Google Analytics. Now, these audience segments can be used to create RLSA or search remarketing bid adjustments in AdWords. But again, these insights are only useful if you can actually action them. So, for example, we can have a look at certain audience segments in Google Analytics. We can have a look at ones which have got particularly strong conversion rates. And those ones, they're the ones we want to dig out and then actually use in our AdWords campaigns to apply positive bid adjustments when they come back. If that audience segment has worked well before, then people who fall into that category, we definitely want them to come back so we increase our competitiveness there. Conversely, if a audience segment has a particularly poor bounce rate or a very, very low conversion rate, then they're the types of audience you perhaps want to exclude from your data. You don't want them to come back. You may even want to just reduce the competitiveness there. So there's thousands of data segments in Google Analytics. So how will you possibly know which ones to examine, which ones to prioritize? See, many at this point would feel the only way forward is to place all of your trust in, the hands of enterprise-level bid automation software. But that isn't possible for smaller advertisers who just don't have a budget. Instead, it boils down to common sense and realizing that it's consumer behavior behind the numbers. So a really good one, to give a bit of an example here, of an audience segment you can draw out of Google Analytics is screen resolution. Now, it may seem quite obvious, and again, common sense, but there's certain audience segments, such as screen resolution, which just won't convert as well for particular types of screen resolution. So even if you've got the best mobile-optimized site in the world, if someone is searching for your site on something that resembles, the screen resolution of a Nokia 3310, then you're not going to get, a strong conversion rate. So once you've actually dug out these ones, and again, it's about getting non-static performance, these are ones which will have differing performance. So then you can apply positive bid adjustments on the screen resolutions which work especially well. And conversely, negative bid adjustments for the ones which aren't going to work as well. So once we've identified which data trends to act upon, the question has always been, how exactly do we act on them? The truth is, there's no universally correct answer, and the only way to find out is by testing. I hope you like this picture, I took it myself. So A/B testing has always, the A/B bit's edited in, by the way, but A/B testing has always been the gold standard of paid search. It's always been around in terms of landing page testing, ad copy testing. Every advertiser worth of salt has been using this for years. But it's never been, or until recently at least, it's not been possible to apply this kind of testing, A/B testing, to bid analysis, to that side of the data spectrum. You see, in the old days, you had to make do with the old style of AdWords experiments, which were quite cumbersome if we were all being honest. You can maybe test the odd keyword, but it wasn't particularly great in terms of setting it up. But now, with the advent of draft and experiment campaigns, this opens up the doors for allowing us to test en masse. So instead of testing just individual keywords, we can test a lot bigger. Now, what we can imagine, for example, instead of testing individual keywords, we must instead test strategies. If you were to do a certain test, and even an A/B test, on a particular keyword, then the trouble there is that traffic is only going to migrate from one side to another, from one keyword to another. So you need to encompass the whole of your campaign under analysis, and then look at the bottom line, how each one impacts. So if you've got two different strategies, both of them aiming to improve, or to aim towards target CPA. Now, strategy 1, for example, might be looking at what the current conversion rate is. And based on that current conversion rate, it tries to look for what's the max CPC required to achieve the target CPA. So a very legitimate way of working. Strategy 2 takes a slightly different approach and instead looks for what's the target CPA and also what's the current CPA. And based on the deviation between those two, it very much then decides which one we're going to, also how much we're going to push or pull. By the way, these examples aren't actually those kind of ones I've just described. But still, how are we going to find out which ones are the actual, which one's going to work best? And the only way to find out is by testing. So we must always make sure that we test each of the different strategies rather than just keywords. And that's the only way in which we can find out for certain which one works best for your account. And that's very much the important thing, because what might work well for one person's account won't work as well for another's. See, this then allows us to put to the test some of the more interesting questions, such as should you be relying on your manual bidding strategies that you've developed over years? Or instead, should you make that move to an automated bid strategy, be it one of AdWords' bid strategies inbuilt or enterprise-level software? See, the only way to find out is by testing. The issue is, people can become precious about the types of, bid automation we've developed and think that everyone must, do the same thing. The truth is, as with the previous example, it needs to be the case that it's right for you. It's right for your account and also for your campaign. There may be some areas of your business that benefit from one type of data analysis and bid automation, and another that works a completely separate way. And the only way to do it is by testing. I can't say that enough. Testing is absolutely crucial to find out which one is going to work best. So now, let's move to the right brain skill. That's creativity. Now, creativity has always been at the heart of paid search. You can analyze trends forever, but if you don't have a compelling ad copy to attract customers, you're only going to fail. For PPC, creativity is all about the art of catching people's eyes. So I'm going to give a bit of an example now, because based on what I've said there, it would seem that everyone would be quite creative. Why not? It is advertising at the end of the day. But in the example we've got here of buy joke books as a search term, now you'd think that this is a very, very obvious platform for being especially creative, which actually isn't the case. Now I'm going to show you the actual ads which appear for this particular search term. Very, very mass-produced. So the first one we have is buy joke books, leftover stocks. Now, relevant, okay, that's fine, but still, where's the creativity? It's not jumping out at me exactly. The next one, online bookshop, free UK delivery on all orders. Now, this one isn't even as relevant. It doesn't mention that's a joke book exactly. I mean, I like the free UK delivery side, but it's not jumping out at me, this ad. It only gets worse from here, guys. We've then got buy book, find the lowest price. So, yeah, very, very mass-produced, you'd say. And then, we were talking a bit before about Amazon being great with Alexa, and I'd agree with that. But thanks very much for this one, Amazon. Buy joke gag on Amazon. So, again, very, very mass-produced ads there. Now, anyone in this room can be more creative than this, surely. Why is it that we've not, made the jump into more creative ad copy? I mean, anyone can, put a good example together. I mean, one example that we thought up in the team at Click, what makes our joke books the best? It's all about the delivery. Enjoy free next day delivery on all our joke books. Don't miss out. Now, that said, I think it works quite well. It would definitely stand out against the mass-produced ads. But there's nothing special about this one, particularly. It's not definitely going to be the best. To that end, I actually think that, anyone in this audience today could put together, an equally, if not better, creative ad copy for this particular search term of buy joke books. And to that end, I've got a bit of a challenge for you guys. Some of you may have been wondering what exactly this question mark is here. But what I actually would like you to do is to tweet in today your best example of a creative ad copy for the keyword buy joke books. And the winner, very careful here, will win this mystery joke book sized mystery gift as judged by Click Consult. Okay. So in the old days, you had to make do with very little ad space to get your message across. Now, as relevancy had to be satisfied above all else, it left very little room for creative ad text. Today, though, we don't have any problem with a lack of ad space. Instead, we're faced with more ad space characters than most know what to do with. Expanded text ads, coupled with a wide array of ad extensions, very much the greatest gift online advertisers have been afforded in recent years. But rather than embrace the change, the majority are instead paralyzed by the choice available because we've spent so long making do with a limited space. Now, the answer for me, at least, is simple. This extra space is the perfect platform to give creativity in ads the center stage it's always deserved. See, relevancy, call to actions, descriptive text, all of that can be easily satisfied with more than a little room left over for more than a dash of creativity. So, the question, why so many advertisers, as we saw before in the joke book example, have neglected this fundamental creative ingredient to PPC? Now, the only acceptable answer, for me at least, would be a lack of quick scalability. Now, let's say that you're an advertiser who has thousands and thousands of different products. You've got everything from air filtration units to Zimmer frames. Now, how are you ever going to find the time to actually be creative for each and every one of these products? You're not going to be able to find time to be relevant for each of these and also creative. You can spend then, you torn between either spend a very, very long time, being creative for each of your thousands of products, which possibly is never going to happen, or we have to find a way to actually be creative en masse kind of. We need a scalable kind of solution. So the solution to this scalability problem is to leverage one of what is, in my opinion, the most undervalued update in Google's recent releases. And these are the ad customizers within the business data section of AdWords. These allow you to leverage signals such as time of the day, audience, device, and location to dynamically insert elements into your ad copy to personalize your ads. Now, these are all done through data feeds. These are very, very exciting and, again, underutilized area of AdWords. Now, many instead focus on the coinciding release of if statements. When most of the ad customizers were released, it was at the same time as if statements. Many kind of caught onto this one. So, in fact, not to slice if statements at all, but they're just a subset of what you can do with data feeds within the ad customizers. So, for example, it works very well. It's quite slick. For example, mobile versus non-mobile. So you can create mobile-preferred ad copy very easily with an if statement. But the thing is, you've only got two options there, mobile or not mobile. So it works very well for binary options, but we need to be scalable. We don't have just two products, we've got thousands of products. How are we going to be scalable en masse? So we need to look instead at using the data feeds. So what we can actually do with this is if someone's located in Manchester when we're searching, add text specific to Manchester for Mancunians' eyes only. Someone in Liverpool, add text specific to Liverpool for Liverpudlians' eyes only. Now, if we stopped here, it'd be fine as an if statement. But of course, we're going to go, UK-wide. So all the way down to London, add text specific to London for Londoners' eyes only. We want every single place there, even Skegness. Now, I'm not sure, guys, if Skegnessy is the right word for people from Skegness. I did try and Google what you call someone from Skegness, but the only results I got were unlucky. So I hope no one's from Skegness in the audience. Okay. So to move on to some actual examples now of how we'd actually leverage these location ad customizers for yourselves. So if you are able to offer free UK-wide delivery, it doesn't stand out as much. Everyone's offering free UK-wide delivery. It's all about the art of catching someone's eye. So if someone's located in Manchester, free delivery to Manchester. If someone's in Liverpool, free delivery to Liverpool. It's going to stand out much, much more. And of course, you're able to deliver all around the UK, but it just grabs people's eyes a lot more. Let's imagine instead that you're a brick and mortar store and you want to drive footfall towards your store. Then you can achieve this through things such as location ad extensions, but it stands out much better if it's actually in the headline. So based on the user's actual location, then we can have a database in the back end, so our data feed of where each of those locations is in terms of distance from your nearest store. So we can have visit our store only 16 miles away. Definitely going to jump out against the mass-produced ads we saw earlier. Now, let's take it up a level. Let's imagine that you've got your own business data, which per location. So let's imagine you're an alarm company, and you've actually found out that per postcode, how many people have actually been burgled in that particular postcode in the last 12 months? And also, how many people have already taken out an alarm in that postcode? But you can create a highly, highly personalized ad based on this. So burglary statistics for M14, 15 burglaries in the last 12 months. Isn't it time you joined your 92 neighbors who have already protected themselves? With all those numbers and data taken from the back end, I mean, that's taken relevancy to the next level. This is personalization now. I mean, a bit of fear tactics as well, but still, it's going to really, really work in those cases. Now, let's go back to our joke book example. So, again, we can use our location ad customizers here. So, for Liverpool, a Scouser walks into a bar and puts everyone in hysterics because she'd read all our rib-tickling gags from our joke book collection. It's going to massively stand out. Someone searches from London, a Cockney walks into a bar and puts everyone in hysterics. Someone from Newcastle, Geordie walks into a bar. And someone from Birmingham, a Brummie walks into a bar and puts everyone in hysterics. It could happen, I don't know. But I'm going to rip into every location today. So, now, the next one to look at after location is day parting. So, let's imagine as the first example that you sell women's fashion online. So you could have quite fun ads that you create there. So on a Monday, beat those Monday blues, treat yourself to a new dress. So this is picking up on the signal of what day of the week it is and dynamically adjusting the ad copy for it. These would be the same ads. On Friday, thank God it's Friday, get a new dress for the weekend. So really, really, adjusting the ads, staying fresh and fun in that way. Let's imagine that you are able to provide next day delivery, but only as long as it's fulfilled before 5 o'clock. Then you can have ad copy such as buy before 5 p.m. for free next day delivery, and that would only show up until 5 o'clock. After that time, a different ad copy would show, but it's very relevant at that time. Now, most of the examples we've been through so far have been quite fun, particularly the one for online dresses there, but what some people in the audience must be thinking is, my industry perhaps isn't quite as fun as that. Creativity, it's not exactly for me. All these examples have been fun, maybe the burglary one aside, but still, how is this going to apply for me? Now, it's all about putting yourself in your customers' shoes, really. So, a lot of us, we've all kind of been there at times when you're up at night and you're actually worried about something. Now, God forbid it's something that bad that you actually potentially need a solicitor for. But those are the kind of things that if someone's looking for a solicitor, then it's it's that kind of time when people will be up at night worried. And it's very much a case that if you're a solicitor, that's as far removed as peddling joke books as you can get. But still, you can be very, very creative then and have ad text such as late at night, can't get to sleep again, worried about the settlement. Want to speak to one of our friendly solicitors in the morning to help put your mind at ease. So that's, again, just personalizing it based on the time of the day when people search late at night, which we all know people will be doing if they're interested in this type of product. That's what's going to grab their attention. But the thing is, all of these so far have been talking about personalization, but none of these are, ever making people feel like the privacy's been invaded. These are just picking up on signals. See, no one's going to feel like, even if you realize perhaps, maybe this has been, personalized to me because it's late at night. No one feels like their privacy has been invaded in any way. I mean, no one's actually, none of these examples are saying things like, hello, John, 34. Why not buy some jewelry for your wife, Janine, 33 today? None of them are like this. It's not hyper-personalization, which you hear about where it's gone too far. Okay. So the next one to quickly look at is audience ad customizers. Now, I'll start with an easy example, one that you don't actually even need a data feed for, just to set the tone a bit. So if people have abandoned the cart, then we can have an attractive offer to try and bring people back, such as get an extra 20% off when you complete your order. Now, I'm getting really good use out of this photo, by the way, guys. So if someone had actually been on the site and viewed 2 different product lines, then what you can do is create a data feed based on all the different product lines we've viewed, create multiple audiences in a data feed. And then if you view 2 different products, then you can create an ad copy based on this, such as can't decide between X and Y being the 2 product lines or services, come back and view our deals. Now, the next example is going to use something from the previous section, from the data section. Now, we spoke a bit about the RLSA type audience, the ones in Google Analytics we could use. Now, let's say that you sell high-end PCs. And again, it's about putting yourself in your customer's point of view. So what kind of audience segments would work well there? What you can actually do is have a look in Google Analytics for people, create an audience segment of people who've had particularly low page load speeds compared to average. And then based on those people, you'd want to bring them back with something such as, is your PC not up to speed? Check out a high spec range. And they're for people who you know are searching on a device that just isn't up to spec at the moment. So what's the future of ad customizers? Now for me, the answer seems quite simple. Following the line of bid adjustment releases, because these all kind of are mirrored in those, it would very much be the case that it'd be demographic ad customizers we'd look at next. So, for example, between male and female, we can have if someone was searching for, if you had a women's jewelry store online, then for women, they're obviously buying for themselves. So you'd want an example such as, treat yourself to a necklace, range of jewelry just for you. For a man, looking to spoil a special girl, we have a perfect gift for her. See, it's very unlikely that people are going to be, if males are searching, they're going to be buying for someone else. It's quite obvious in the offline world. See, to draw a bit of a comparison here, these are the signals we take for granted in the offline world. If, a man was to walk into a women's jewelry store, the cashier isn't going to go up to him and go, oh, you're looking to, buy something for your next night out on the tiles with the girls. They're not going to think that. I mean, I get asked that question when my hair's a bit longer sometimes, but I imagine most of the men in the audience don't have the same problem. But it's, it's taken for granted, or, it's taking account of things you take for granted in the offline world. Okay. So, personalization is the new playground for creativity, and leveraging this is key to ongoing success. So while creativity has always been a core skill of PPC, it's only today we can harness it effectively. Personalization allows us to mass-produce creativity and overcome the scalability issues. So, to sum up, while the specific techniques have evolved and will constantly evolve with time, if you maintain these two skill sets of data and creativity, and keep thinking about how best to adapt them to the changing landscape, then that should set you up for anything that the future of paid search throws at you. So I'd just like to summarize with just the main takeaway tips, which I hope you can take home and make good use in your accounts today. So firstly, we want to look at making sure we apply common sense to find the actionable trends. It's not about being extremely technically minded. Instead, it's looking for what we feel is actually going to be different in terms of actionable trends. So it's very much a case that rather than having to rely on enterprise-level software, instead use common sense to figure out where to look. And then make sure you segment devices by, segment campaigns by device or by anything so that you can uncover those different trends. Don't accept that it's just static performance. Look below the surface and you'll find the different performance, and then you can actually action it. So make sure that you're using good use of Google Analytics for the data segments. There'll always be some in there that you can uncover and use to take your accounts to the next level. And then don't test keywords with AdWords experiments. Instead, test whole strategies so data doesn't just move, traffic isn't moving between particular keywords. And then it seems such an obvious point. Be creative. You shouldn't be having to tell us to advertisers, but when you look at the, the joke book example, it clearly does need to be said. And then don't focus on if statements. Instead, focus on data feeds, and that adds the scalability that we can use to overcome the creative issues with thousands of products. And then make sure you use it to personalize your ads with all the signals from location, time of day, etc. And make use of your own business data. So in the alarm example I mentioned earlier, that's using your own business data. It doesn't have to be by location. You have all this data available. Use it, integrate it into your advertising. And finally, just keep looking for new ways to tap into the data and creativity skill sets. Always keep those skills absolutely fresh, and that should future-proof your paid search campaigns. So thank you, everyone. I hope you found this useful above all else. I'm looking forward to seeing your tweets on the creative joke book examples, and I'd also love to hear any questions you may have. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. Any quick questions, Alan?